So Thomas said, today we're going to talk about First Nations and Aboriginals people in the workplace, and the delegates we've got today are, in no particular order, Gordon, Percy, Henry and Emily. And first thing I'm going to talk about is the business case for First Nations and Aboriginal peoples. By having more such people in our workplace, we'll build a stable, local, skilled, reliable workforce. We'll develop a capacity, a reputation for corporate social responsibility, which helps our employer brand. We'll achieve a higher level of diversity in our workforce, and we'll reduce support costs to local First Nation Aboriginal groups. So there's got to be a lot of good things in having more people from those backgrounds. So if we're going to go about this, what we're going to do, said Thomas, is we're going to look at some goals to set. And we're going to see that by having more people from minority backgrounds such as First Nation Aboriginal, it will improve recruitment and retention, it will increase our cultural competency to support workplace environments, we'll be able to provide services specific to the Aboriginal and First Nations community, perhaps getting them to buy our products and services they wouldn't have bought before. And we can also increase the number of skilled workers based on supply and demand. So, any questions? Yes, said Emily, I've got a question. How about the different cultures? What can we do as conscientious employees to feel more comfortable about First Nation Aboriginal cultures? Well, that's a good question, Thomas said. What we can do is we can obtain more knowledge, which will allow us to display more empathy. We can be self-confident, and we can encourage people to talk about their cultural identity. We need to recognise a number of things that are different from First Nation Aboriginal people's cultures to mainstream Canadians. And they are things like the concept of very collective grouping, very much a case of masculine and feminine. They perhaps don't follow Christianity. They perhaps don't feel the same way we do about uncertainty. So what we can do, we can look at, well, how tolerant are these First Nation Aboriginal people to ambiguity? How flexible are they in their behaviour? What motivation they have to perform? How stable they are on an emotional basis? Because in First Nation Aboriginals groups, the community is the foremost of all their values, and the future tense rather than the present tense is very dominant. The world is understood on quite a mythical basis, and goals and objectives are met with patience. First Nation Aboriginal peoples often pride themselves on communal ownership, and gifts are very important. They're regarded as somewhat, people do describe as social glue. So the work that First Nation Aboriginal people do is often motivated by a group need. And they're very keen to demonstrate the value they put on older people, because ageing in these communities is seen as a source of wisdom. Eye contact could be a problem because from time to time it might be seen as over-assertive. And silences are very much acceptable in First Nation Aboriginal communities. Assertiveness is seen as one of those traits that isn't very communal, is much more individualistic. And listening skills are very important as well. So nodding signifies understanding. A handshake is quite soft rather than quite firm. Very much important to emphasise the importance of harmony in nature, and that one's family is indeed extended family. And that people who come from First Nation Aboriginal background often respond well to praise within a group. So we're working with First Nation Aboriginal people, said Henry. What should we do? What should be the things that we think about? Well, said Thomas, we should focus on what the individual's saying. So we look at the speaker, we give them full attention to what exactly is being said. They're from a background that are used to telling stories as a way to communicate. We don't interrupt the speaker, because that's seen as a sign of disrespect, and indeed in our community as well. But in First Nation Aboriginal communities, they're taught to be even more respectful to the speaker. And many times the use a talking stick with large groups, so don't be too surprised if that's the case. We're always in a rush, and therefore we try and speak over each other, but First Nation Aboriginals people less so, and they will find that even more rude than people do in white communities. And we need to listen from the heart. This is a very important factor in developing listening skills with First Nation Aboriginal colleagues. You listen with your heart, not just with your head, because you listen more clearly as you focus on what their colleague is saying. And you clarify what's being said if you're unsure, because that shows you're paying attention, you're interested in what the First Nation Aboriginal person is telling you. They want to be heard, they want to feel that they're contributing. So, said Percy, we get these First Nation Aboriginals people, we're well aware in Canada that this is a community that's growing in population terms. How do we keep hold of them? How do we make sure they stick around and retain them in the organisation? Another great question, said Thomas. Well, we need to recognise that training might not be something they feel that comfortable with, but we should encourage it, and we should make them feel that they've got the skills needed. We need to emphasise the importance of working as a team and provide support systems. We also need to have a zero tolerance approach to any bullying, harassment, particularly with racist overtones. We need to be conscious of work-life balance issues, because it's a case with the emphasis on the family. Aboriginal First Nation peoples put a lot of emphasis on getting home on time, or perhaps more emphasis. We need to recognise that the management style is communicating with First Nation Aboriginal people in a way that they feel comfortable. And also it's a case that it may be difficult for some First Nation Aboriginal people to talk on a one-on-one basis, so better as part of a group. So to sum up, said Thomas, what we're going to talk about now is the best practices to recruit and retain First Nation Aboriginals people. We commit for the long term, we bolster their skills and education, we review our recruitment and hiring practices, we foster cultural awareness, we reach out to these communities, such as putting advertisements in community newsletters and blogs. We prevent any isolation they may feel, we leverage any goodwill, we focus on retaining the people, and we support Aboriginal businesses wherever we can. We try and break down any myths and prejudices that people may have. We review our career advancement processes. We conduct cultural training. We do our best to promote Aboriginal people quite quickly and indeed hire more than one. We assess the business and employment practices that could cause barriers. We develop a strategy around hiring and retention, and any successes we get, we communicate and celebrate them. And that's all for today. Thank you very much.